Alright, so from what I can see from the trends and whatnot, it seems like a lot of people are more into reviews than actual gameplay. So today I want to review one of my favorite video game franchises. A series that brings back nostalgia because it's a ton of fun for me. And the series that I have in mind is a prototype series. These games came out in 2009 and 2012, and yet they still feel fresh. Of course, the visuals of the first game lack the polish of today's standards, such as 4K, 2K, and just multi-poly builds. However, the gameplay and the feeling that you get traversing an infested New York can be compared to Spider-Man 2 the game, a game that is widely known for its physics. And they feel similar because the company that worked on them is the same company that did Spider-Man 2. So as the series go, we'll start off with the first game. You play as Alex Mercer, a fugitive who doesn't remember what happened to him. All he knows is that he's different than what he should be. He isn't normal. As you progress through the story, you begin to unlock key memories of your past life. And also you obtain memories through other people that will tell you more of the story and will help explain what's going on throughout the city. You obtain new powers through consuming individuals, whether it be a government agent or an infested beast. Alex is able to beat his enemies to the brink of death, then grab them and shoot his tendrils into them and absorb their life force and mass. As you grow in the story, you learn new ways to use your abilities in devastating ways. You harness the power of Alex Mercer and the virus. You can't help but feel like a powerful and badass individual, especially when you successfully evade groups of soldiers and blend in with them using their fellow man's face as a shield. Don't get me wrong, Alex is OP, but he can still be taken down. I had my fair share of deaths in the game, so this game is plenty challenging. I didn't beat this game until a few months ago. I had played it back in about 2010 and I never finished the game. I'm happy to say that upon beating the game, I felt like it was all worth the ride it took me on. However, like many games, there are dull spots where you're just escorting people to consume them later on, or you're fighting waves of enemies to protect a scientist. You spend a lot of the time in this game running around, fighting enemies, and just unleashing all the power that you have within. Alex is fighting a corporation known as Gentek, and Gentek is technically the enemy because they want to take over what Alex has. They want the virus for their own malicious activities. And Alex doesn't quite sit right with that. He doesn't want his abilities to be taken and used for the worse. At least that's how it starts out. As you progress through the story, you kind of just end up fighting your way through waves of enemies. This game is very well made. It was made and thought of fun. It wasn't made to tell a crazy story that was going to last forever. It was meant to entertain the player. It was to make the player feel as if they were unstoppable. And when you fight boss battles, which do happen inside the game, you tend to find yourself using every ability that you've so far obtained. And during the last battle, you fight an enemy that you've fought in the past, but this time you're on a clock. You have to fight with purpose, and you have to fight in order to save lives. So in a way, Alex Mercer is kind of an anti-hero in the first game because you go around and you murder people and you just take their life, but you're also trying to stop Gentek from destroying New York City because to them, they don't see another way of stopping the virus. And as Alex Mercer, you don't want to stop the virus. You see it as something that you are now a part of. It gives you a real clear indication of where Alex was and what Alex will become and who he is at the end of the game. So right now you can find the game about $15 on PlayStation Plus. I don't know about Xbox because it's usually around $50, but right now on PlayStation Plus it's about $15 for both games. And I strongly recommend it. I would give this game about an 8.5 out of 10 because it was a lot of fun. It had a decent story, and it was just something that gives you the power to do what you want. You can run around, or you can continue the story, or you can just tear apart people and continue on with your day. Next on my agenda is Prototype 2. In this story, you play as Sergeant James Heller, a soldier who was overseas and returns to New York during the second outbreak, which is now dubbed the Mercer virus. You start the game in a convoy going through the red zone when you're attacked. Heller nearly avoids every foe that is thrown at him, except for Mercer. Mercer sees Heller's ability to hold his ground and then infects him as Heller is trying to stab him with his knife. From that point on, Heller is no more, no less than Mercer. They are equals, both targets of the government and both overpowered. This game is a lot like the first game, however far more polished and has a lot more that you can do in the city. The story is more compelling, but however the gameplay felt a little toned down. Heller isn't as powerful as Mercer in the first game, but what Heller has is more abilities. His abilities are able to be upgraded to do more damage. He has got different abilities than Mercer did. He has tendrils that he can shoot out into enemies, and use those tendrils that are shot into enemies to pull in debris, other enemies, and just cause a lot of devastation. Heller is also in an internal conflict about Mercer and how he views him, because he has shown what the military that he has supported has done for his city. He's shown what they are planning to do with the city, but then hates Mercer for causing the outbreak. He is torn, but eventually knows what side to align with. James Heller is somebody who is a man on a hunt for his wife and daughter, and he's doing everything in his power to find them. And in the very beginning of the game, you're just a regular guy. But like I said, Mercer infects him and makes him his equal. And you're in a science lab right after that because they want to know what the Mercer virus is, because most people that are infected with the Mercer virus turn into basically zombies. But Heller, he's different. He didn't change into a mindless zombie. He became something that wasn't what they expected. They expected Heller to die. They expected Heller to just be a lab rat for them to run their tests on and then dispose of. And Heller won't let that happen without going out with a fight. Heller doesn't want to be seen as a lab rat. He is more than that. He is a man on a mission. He is a man with the power and the will to go on. Like the first game, you start out with little to no powers, very low health, and basically just running around punching people and trying to survive. But as the game progresses, Heller becomes more and more competent. He becomes somebody who can easily take down foes without hesitation and then consume them right after because it's their life. He's somebody who can easily take on other infected individuals that Mercer sees fit, because Mercer is on a mission to create an army. He is trying to stop Gentek because Gentek is the one that started this. They're the ones that have... Gentek is the one that wanted to use this virus as a weapon, and it is previously discussed in the other game how Gentek is the one that started the virus. They're the ones that wanted to make it a weapon. They wanted to use it on cities as a bioweapon. They wanted to see what it would do, so they had tested it in small towns to see what had happened. I do wish these games were given a remastered touch instead of ported to next gen. They are really good games, and I would have loved to see more of the games come out from Activision, like a Prototype 3. I would have loved to see different cities explored, or even a backstory and an explanation of what had happened and why Gentek was this way, or even a horror version made in the eyes of someone who wasn't like Mercer, somebody who was just a foot soldier, and then they had to deal with the virus. I would have loved to see a first-person shooter from this game franchise. However, and unfortunately, Activision shut down the company back in 2014, so we are highly unlikely to see anything more from this franchise. And that is a bummer because, like I've been saying, this game is really good. These games are just blatant fun. They're games that allow you to just sit back and unleash all your frustrations. But they're not easy games. They're not just run around, cut down, and continue on. Because I play games like that, and they're not technically that fun. So my final thoughts on these games is, if you haven't touched them, if you haven't played them, and you see the opportunity and you're interested in games like these, go out and spend a couple bucks. You know, you're going to get 2 games for the price of 1 most of the time. But if it's not something that you're willing to spend the money on, then, you know, look up gameplay videos, maybe look at the lore, see what these games have to offer, because they are extremely fun games. They are games that are different from what most zombie games are like. Because most zombie games, you're not the person who is OP. You're usually a foot soldier who's just barely better than what you're fighting. Or sometimes you're on the brink of death and then somehow you survive. So I give Prototype 2 an 8 out of 10 because it wasn't as good as the first game. It wasn't as original. It wasn't a breath of fresh air because it was 2012, and so most games in that era were about the same in the action aspect. So I thank you for watching the video. If you reached the end, I would really appreciate a like and subscribe. If you did not like the video, downvote it. But I wanted to give this a review in 2020 because, 1, it's on sale right now, and 2, a lot of people are at home, so they need something fun to just sit down, relax, and not think about what they're doing. So I thank you again, and everybody have a good, safe quarantine.